I watched my mother-in-law's lips curl into that familiar smirk as she raised her champagne glass. "To Ella," she announced to our table of 8 at LeBlanc's rooftop restaurant, "who works so hard at her career that she barely has time to make a proper home for my son. My name is Ella, and this was my 36th birthday dinner. A dinner I paid for, like everything else in my life." I maintained my smile, gripping my own glass so tightly I thought it might shatter. Beside me, Theo shifted uncomfortably, but said nothing. Of course he didn't. He never did. "Remember when Michelle used to cook those Sunday roasts?" Cassandra continued, her voice dripping with nostalgia. Now that girl knew how to take care of a family. Entry number 47, I thought, mentally adding it to my growing collection of subtle daggers. The waiter appeared with our appetizers, providing a brief reprieve from the tension. "The architecture firm's keeping you busy?" Christopher, my father-in-law, attempted to change the subject. His tone was kind, but his eyes avoided mine. They always did when Cassandra was on a roll. "We just landed the Richardson project," I replied, carefully cutting into my tuna tartare. "The sustainable housing development downtown." "Oh, that's nice," Cassandra interrupted. "Though I always thought architecture was such a masculine profession. Don't you miss having a more traditional role?" 48. "Actually," my friend Yasmin cut in from across the table, "Ella's the youngest female architect to win the Urban Design Excellence Award. The firm wouldn't exist without her." I shot her a grateful look. Yasmin had been my rock through 3 years of marriage to Theo and his baggage. She'd witnessed every slight, every backhanded compliment, every comparison to the perfect Michelle. "Awards don't keep a marriage warm," Cassandra replied sweetly. "Do they, Theo?" My husband suddenly became very interested in his phone. I watched his thumb scroll quickly past something, or someone's, message. "Speaking of warm," I said, standing up, "I need some air. Excuse me." The night air hit my face as I stepped onto the restaurant's terrace. Below, the city sparkled like scattered diamonds. This view, this success, I'd built it all myself. Yet somehow, I'd let these people make me feel small in my own life. "Hey." Yasmin's voice came from behind me. "You okay?" "Just adding to my collection," I said, pulling out my phone and opening the Notes app. Under Birthday Dinner 2023, I typed out Cassandra's latest jabs. "Jesus, Ella," Yasmin peered at my screen. "How long have you been keeping this log?" "Since they moved in," I admitted. 18 months, 2 weeks, and 3 days ago." "Into the condo you bought," Yasmin emphasized. "The one they live in rent-free because you're too nice." I laughed hollowly. "Nice? No, weak is the word you're looking for." "Then do something about it." Back at the table, dessert had arrived, a chocolate soufflé with a single candle. As I sat down, Theo squeezed my hand under the table, his version of an apology for his silence. "Make a wish, sweetheart," Cassandra called out, her voice honey-coated poison. I closed my eyes, thinking about the document folder hidden in my home office, the one labeled Tenant Agreement, C&C Homes. The one I'd had drawn up as a formality when they moved in, complete with behavioral clauses I never thought I'd enforce. "What did you wish for?" Theo asked after I blew out the candle. I smiled, thinking about the growing file of screenshots, recordings, and documented incidents. About Michelle's constant presence in our lives, digital and otherwise. About the carefully crafted lease agreement that would become my sword. "Peace," I said simply. "Just peace." Cassandra laughed. "Oh, you're always so serious, Ella. You know what you need? To relax more." Michelle always knew how to laugh at herself. 49. As the evening wound down and the bills were settled, by me naturally, I watched Theo help his mother with her coat. They'd all go back to my condo tonight, my space, my sanctuary, invaded by people who saw me as nothing more than an inconvenient stepping stone in their son's life. But something had shifted tonight. Maybe it was the champagne, or maybe it was simply time. But as I watched them pile into their Uber, I felt the last thread of my patience snap clean through. Happy birthday to me, I whispered, opening my phone to add entry number 50. Tomorrow, I'd call my half-sister Summer. She wasn't just a real estate attorney. She was someone who understood what it meant to be treated like an outsider in your own life. And together, we'd make sure this was the last birthday I spent swallowing other people's poison. The morning after my birthday, I stood in my kitchen, staring at the Live, Laugh, Love sign Cassandra had mounted above my sleek marble countertops, without my permission, like everything else she'd done to my home. The chrome appliances are so cold, she'd said when they first moved in. This makes it more homey. I sipped my coffee, remembering how my modern, minimalist condo had slowly transformed. Floral cushions appeared on my leather sectional. Lace doilies materialized under my carefully curated decorative pieces. Each change came with a comment about how sterile my taste was. The sound of shuffling slippers announced Cassandra's arrival. "Oh, you're up early," she said, eyeing my work attire. "Another busy day at the office?" "Client meeting at 9. She clicked her tongue. "Theo barely sees you anymore. I was just telling Michelle the other day." The mug nearly slipped from my hand. "You still talk to Michelle?" "Of course, she's practically family. Such a shame things didn't work out with her and Theo. Though maybe if he hadn't been so focused on his career back then." The implication hung in the air like smoke. I set my mug down and opened my laptop, pretending to check emails while Cassandra bustled around my kitchen, rearranging things to her liking. A notification popped up on my screen. Theo had left his Gmail logged in on our shared desktop computer. Again. A new email caught my eye. Missing the old times. M. My finger hovered over the mouse. I shouldn't. I wouldn't. I did. "Remember that little Italian place on 4th? Was thinking about our Friday night tradition. Still make the best carbonara you've ever had? M." Those were simpler times. Sometimes I wonder. T. The thread went on. And on. Months of exchanges, hidden in plain sight. "Ella?" Cassandra's voice made me jump. "Would you mind picking up some groceries? I'm making Theo's favorite pot roast tonight, though I'm sure you're too busy." "Actually," I said, closing the laptop, "I need to head to the office. Big presentation." In my home office, I locked the door and called Yasmin. "They're still in contact," I said without preamble. "Theo and Michelle. They've been talking this whole time." "That sneaky little—" Yasmin caught herself. "What are you going to do?" I opened my drawer and pulled out the tenant agreement. Remember when they moved in? How Theo said it would just be for a few months until they got back on their feet? Yeah, 18 months ago. I had them sign this agreement. Behavioral clauses, respect for property, guest policies, even a morality clause. I laughed bitterly. I thought I was being paranoid. And I'm done being the bigger person. I pulled up my phone and dialed a number I hadn't used in years. It rang 3 times before a familiar voice answered. "Ella? Is everything okay?" "Summer," I said. "I need your legal expertise." My half-sister was quiet for a moment. The family lawyer in me should probably refuse due to conflict of interest, but the sister in me is intrigued. "Lunch today? I'll explain everything." After hanging up, I heard Theo's voice in the kitchen. He was home early, unusual for a workday. "Mom, you can't keep bringing up Michelle," he was saying. "It upsets Ella." "Oh, please, I'm just reminiscing. Besides, Michelle asks about you all the time. She misses our family dinners." I pressed record on my phone, adding to my collection of evidence. That's not appropriate, Mom. Neither is letting your wife work so much that she neglects her home. This place was so much warmer before she stripped away all the character." I stopped recording and opened my notes app. Unauthorized decorating changes, 27 instances. Inappropriate comments about career, 50 instances. Unauthorized guests, 12 instances. Michelle mentions, 31 instances. Property rearrangement, 43 instances. The list went on. Each entry dated, time-stamped, and many recorded. A paper trail of quiet warfare. My phone buzzed with a text from Summer. Got us a table at Marino's. 12:30. Bring everything. I gathered my files and laptop, then walked through the kitchen toward the door. Theo and Cassandra fell silent as I passed. Don't forget dinner tonight, Cassandra called after me. I'm making pot roast. Michelle's recipe. I paused at the door, smiling slightly. Wouldn't miss it for the world. As I walked to my car, I added one more note to my growing list. Soon, very soon, they'd learn that my silence wasn't weakness. It was preparation. Marino's was packed with the lunch crowd when I arrived. Summer was already there, looking polished in her lawyer attire, a stack of yellow legal pads in front of her. We hadn't seen each other in months, but she hugged me like it was yesterday. So, she said as we settled into our booth, tell me about this agreement. I pulled out the document and slid it across the table. Summer's eyes widened as she flipped through the pages. You had them sign this? All of it? Every page. Notarized too. I took a sip of water. Theo said I was being ridiculous at the time. Called it unnecessary paperwork. Summer reached the behavioral clauses and let out a low whistle. Oh, Ella, you just found your nuclear button. What do you mean? These clauses? She pointed to Section 4.3. They're airtight. Violation of any 3 items constitutes grounds for immediate termination of residency. The waiter appeared to take our orders. As soon as he left, Summer leaned forward. Show me what you've got. I pulled out my phone, opening the evidence folder. Voice recordings, screenshots, security camera footage from the building lobby showing unauthorized guests. Even emails where they admit to changing things without permission. Summer started taking notes. And the Michelle situation? Here. I handed her my laptop. Emails between her and Theo, plus social media posts showing her at my condo when I'm at work. When they're specifically barred from having guests without prior notification, Summer murmured, scanning the agreement. Does Theo know you have access to these emails? Shared desktop. He never logs out. Our food arrived, but Summer was too engrossed in the documents to eat. Ella, this is comprehensive. Almost like you've been planning this. Not planning, I corrected. Protecting myself. There's a difference. Well, Summer said, finally picking up her fork, your protection just became your power. But we need to do this right. I know someone, Gary Kennedy, best eviction attorney in the city. Eviction? The word felt strange on my tongue. That's what this is, isn't it? You want them out. I thought about that morning's pot roast comment, about Michelle's recipe, about Theo's secret emails. Yes, I said firmly, I want them out. Then let's call Gary. Summer pulled out her phone and put it on speaker. A warm, confident voice answered on the second ring. Summer, to what do I owe the pleasure? After quick introductions, Summer explained the situation. Gary's interest was immediately piqued. Send me everything, he said. But from what you're describing, we have a solid case for immediate eviction. The morality clause alone. What about backlash? I asked. They'll say I'm heartless, throwing out my husband's parents. Let them, Gary replied. The law doesn't care about family drama, it cares about contracts, and yours is ironclad. After the call, Summer reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Are you sure about this? It'll change everything. Everything's already changed, I said. They just don't know it yet. Back at the office, I received an email from Gary with draft documents attached. The subject line read, Notice of lease termination. Final warning. My phone buzzed with a text from Theo. Mom's pot roast tonight. Don't be late. Another text followed. And please try to be more pleasant than at your birthday dinner. I stared at the messages, then opened my evidence folder. Created a new entry. Date. Today. Time. 2:15 p.m. Subject. Husband prioritizing mother's dinner over wife's feelings about ongoing emotional abuse. My office phone rang. It was Yasmin. Hey, you okay? You've been quiet all day. I met with Summer, I said, and a lawyer named Gary. And? And I'm done being quiet. Yasmin was silent for a moment. Good. It's about time. That evening, I walked into my condo exactly on time. The smell of pot roast filled the air, and Cassandra was holding court in my kitchen like she owned it. "Oh, good. You made it," she said, not looking up from her stirring. Though the pot roast might be a bit dry, Michelle always said timing was everything. I set my bag down, feeling the weight of the legal documents inside it. "You're right, Cassandra. Timing is everything." She missed my tone completely. "Finally. You're learning. Now, if you could just work less and focus more on—" "Actually," I interrupted, "I have some paperwork we need to discuss. After dinner." Theo looked up from his phone, frowning. "What paperwork?" I smiled, thinking of the notice sitting in my bag. "Just some house rules we need to review, nothing major." But it was major. It was everything. And by tomorrow morning, they'd all know exactly how major it was. The pot roast sat untouched as I spread the documents across my dining table. Cassandra's face grew increasingly pale as she read through the final warning notice. This is ridiculous," she sputtered. "We're family." "Family respects boundaries," I replied calmly, pointing to a highlighted section. "Section 4.3 clearly states—" "I don't care what it states," she turned to Theo. "Are you going to let her do this to us?" Theo picked up one of the papers, his hands shaking slightly. "Ella, what is this really about?" I pulled out my phone and played the first recording. Cassandra's voice filled the room. "That girl has no idea how to be a proper wife. Michelle would never—" Next recording. "Did you see what she's wearing to work? Trying too hard to compete in a man's world?" "Stop it," Cassandra hissed. I didn't. Instead, I opened my laptop and turned it toward them. "Here's the security footage from last Tuesday, Michelle entering our building at 2 p.m., when I was at work." Theo's face went white. "She just stopped by to—" "To what, Theo? To exchange carbonara recipes?" Christopher, who had been silent until now, cleared his throat. "Now, Ella, let's not be hasty." "Hasty?" I laughed. "I've documented 53 violations of the tenant agreement in 18 months. That's not hasty, that's methodical." My phone buzzed. A text from Summer. "Gary filed the preliminary paperwork. You're good to proceed." Cassandra stood up, her chair scraping against the floor. "We took you in as family. We've only ever wanted what's best for Theo." "You live in my home," I said, my voice steady. "The home I bought before I even met Theo. And you've spent every day trying to make me feel unwelcome in it." "Because you're not right for him," Cassandra exploded. "You're cold, career-obsessed." "Mom!" Theo interrupted, but I held up my hand. "Please, let her finish. I'm recording this too." That shut her up. I turned to my husband. "Did you want to explain the emails, or should I read them aloud?" "What emails?" Christopher asked. I opened the email thread on my laptop. Missing the old times? Sometimes I wonder. Ring any bells, Theo? The room went deadly quiet. Cassandra's face transformed from anger to calculation. "We can work this out," she said, her voice suddenly honey-sweet. "We're family. Families fight, but they forgive." "You have 2 weeks," I replied, sliding the formal notice across the table. "After that, I expect the condo returned to its original condition. Any damages will be deducted from your security deposit." "Security deposit?" Christopher sputtered. "We never paid—" "Exactly. Which means you'll be paying for any damages out of pocket." Theo finally found his voice. "Ella, please, where are they supposed to go?" "That's not my problem." I stood up, gathering the documents. "You have their real estate agent's number, don't you? Michelle's still in that business, right?" The pot roast was cold now, forgotten in its serving dish. Cassandra started to cry. Real tears or tactical ones? I couldn't tell anymore. "I'm going to stay at Yasmin's tonight," I announced, picking up my pre-packed overnight bag. "I suggest you all use this time to start packing." "If they go, I go," Theo said, trying to sound firm, but his voice cracked. I paused at the door. "I know. Your bag is in the guest room closet. I packed it this morning. Later that night, curled up on Yasmin's couch, I checked my phone. 5 missed calls from Theo, 3 from Cassandra, and 1 text from Michelle. They told me what you did. You've changed. I typed back, "No, I just stopped pretending." Yasmin brought me a glass of wine. "How do you feel?" "Lighter," I said, surprising myself with the truth of it. "Like I can breathe." "Gary called," she said. "He's impressed with your documentation. Said it's the most organized case he's seen in years." I smiled, thinking of all those careful notes, all those recordings, all those screenshots. Well, they always said I was cold and calculating. Might as well prove them right. My phone buzzed again. Summer this time. Just checked the security cameras. They're packing boxes. It's really happening. I took a sip of wine, remembering Cassandra's face when I played those recordings. Theo's expression when I mentioned the emails. The way Christopher's bluster died when I mentioned damages. "You know they'll try to fight this," Yasmin warned. "Let them," I replied, opening my laptop to review Gary's latest email. "I've got everything documented, witnessed, and notarized. They want a war? I've got the ammunition." And for the first time in 18 months, I slept peacefully, knowing my home would soon be mine again. "You need to come to the company dinner tonight," Theo said over the phone. "People are starting to talk." I was at my office, reviewing blueprints for the Richardson project when he called. A week had passed since the pot roast confrontation, and the condo had become a Cold War zone. "Talk about what?" I asked, though I already knew. "About us. About why you're staying at Yasmin's. Mom's really trying, Ella. She even apologized." I pulled up the security camera feed on my laptop. Boxes lined my living room walls, but they hadn't packed nearly enough for people planning to leave in a week. "Fine," I said. "I'll come." "Thank you." He paused. "And Mom invited a few extra people to help smooth things over." My stomach tightened. "Let me guess. Michelle?" "She's a client now," he said quickly. "It's professional." I ended the call and immediately dialed Summer. "They're stalling," I told her. "Playing nice while they look for legal loopholes." "They won't find any," Summer assured me. "But be careful tonight. Document everything." The company dinner was at La Maison, one of those overpriced French restaurants where the portions are tiny and the drama is supersized. I arrived exactly on time to find Cassandra, Christopher, and Theo already seated, with Michelle right beside them. "Ella!" Michelle stood up, arms open for a hug I didn't return. "It's been too long." She looked exactly as I remembered. Perfectly styled hair, designer dress, and a smile that never quite reached her eyes. "How's the real estate business?" I asked, taking my seat. "Wonderful. In fact, I was just telling Theo about this charming house that's available. Perfect for his parents." Cassandra dabbed at her eyes with a napkin. "But we love the condo. It feels like home." "It's not your home," I said quietly. "It never was." The waiter arrived with wine, breaking the tension. As he poured, I noticed Michelle's hand brush against Theo's arm. Casual, practiced, familiar. "Remember when we used to come here every anniversary?" she asked him. That corner table was our special spot. I pulled out my phone under the table and hit record. "Oh yes," Cassandra beamed. "You two had such traditions. Speaking of which, Michelle brought something special." Michelle reached into her bag and pulled out a small wrapped package. "I saw this and thought of you, Theo. Remember that summer in Venice?" My husband's face softened as he opened it, a small glass gondola paperweight. "Our first trip together. That's it." I stood up, grabbing my purse. "I'm done." "Ella, please." Theo reached for my arm. "You're embarrassing me." "I'm embarrassing you?" I laughed, loud enough that nearby tables turned to look. "Your ex is giving you romantic mementos while your mother plays matchmaker, and I'm embarrassing you?" Cassandra's face hardened. "If you leave now—" "You'll what?" I challenged. "Move out faster? Because that's not what those half-empty boxes suggest." Michelle tried to play peacemaker. We're just reminiscing, Ella. No need to be insecure. I turned to her, feeling strangely calm. You know what's interesting, Michelle? You're still so comfortable in spaces that don't belong to you. My husband, my home, my life. You just keep showing up uninvited. I was invited, she said primly. Yes, by people who don't have the right to invite anyone. I picked up my wine glass. To trespassing. You're all so good at it. I set the glass down without drinking and walked out, ignoring Theo's calls behind me. In my car, I pulled out my phone and sent 3 emails in quick succession. To Gary, need to accelerate the timeline, sending new recordings. To Summer, they're not leaving voluntarily, time for Plan B. To the building management, please change all security codes effective immediately, new tenant agreements pending. My phone buzzed with responses almost instantly. Gary, documentation received, filing emergency eviction notice tomorrow morning. Summer, on it, meeting you at the office in 20. Building management, codes changed, new keys required for all access points. One last text came through, from Theo. You're overreacting. Come back and we can talk about this. I started my car, thinking about the half-packed boxes, the secret meetings, the calculated manipulation. They thought they were playing chess, but they'd forgotten whose board they were playing on. At my office, I found Summer waiting with a stack of papers. Ready? She asked. I nodded, pulling out my laptop and the file labeled Violation Summary, Tenants Cassandra and Christopher Holmes. Let's end this, I said, opening the document that would finally clear my home of unwanted guests. All 52 pages of it. Summer smiled grimly. They have no idea what's coming, do they? No, I replied, starting to type. They really don't. The DHL courier arrived at exactly 9 a.m. the next morning. I watched through the building's security feed as Cassandra signed for the envelope, her face shifting from annoyance to shock as she read the contents. My phone rang almost immediately. An emergency eviction? She screeched. You can't do this. Actually, I said calmly, I can. Check page 3. We're consulting our lawyer. Perfect. Have them call Gary Kennedy. His number's on the last page. I ended the call and turned to Yasmin, who was sitting across from my desk. And now we wait. We didn't have to wait long. Within an hour, my office lobby was chaos. Ma'am, you can't go up without an appointment, I heard the security guard say. I'm her mother-in-law. I pressed the intercom. Let them up, Rick. Moments later, Cassandra burst through my office door, Christopher and Theo trailing behind her. She waved the papers like a weapon. 48 hours? She sputtered. You're giving us 48 hours to leave? Actually, I corrected. I gave you 2 weeks. You chose to spend that time plotting instead of packing. We were trying to work things out, Theo protested. By taking Michelle to our favorite restaurants? By letting her give you romantic gifts? That's not... Save it. I stood up, facing them. You have 48 hours to vacate my property. After that, anything left behind will be considered abandoned and disposed of. Cassandra's face crumpled. Please, Ella. We'll do better. We'll respect your boundaries. Like you respected them last night? I turned my laptop around, showing the security footage. Here's Michelle entering the condo at midnight, after the dinner. Care to explain? Theo paled. She just wanted to talk. In our home? Without my knowledge or consent? I clicked to another window. Here's the lease agreement you all signed. Section 6.2. No unauthorized guests between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. You're really going to throw us out over a technicality? Christopher finally spoke. No, I replied. I'm throwing you out because you've turned my home into a battlefield. Because you've undermined me, disrespected me, and treated me like an intruder in my own space. I pulled out a thick folder. Here's every incident, every insult, every violation. Would you like me to read them chronologically or by category? This isn't right, Theo said, his voice breaking. We're family. Family? I laughed. Family doesn't conspire with exes. Family doesn't make someone feel small in their own home. Family doesn't need a legal document to behave decently. Cassandra switched tactics, tears flowing freely now. Where will we go? We can't find a place in 48 hours. Michelle's a real estate agent, I said sweetly. I'm sure she can help. She seems to help with everything else. If they go, I go, Theo announced, trying to sound firm. I opened my drawer and pulled out another envelope. I thought you might say that. Here's your copy of the eviction notice. His face fell. You're evicting me too? You're on the lease as a tenant, not an owner. Check the property records. The room went silent. Yasmin, who had been quietly watching, stood up. I'll show you out, she said to the shell-shocked group. Unless you'd like security to do it? Cassandra made one last attempt. Your father would be ashamed. My father? I cut her off. The man who treated me like a dirty secret for years? Funny you should mention him. He taught me something valuable. Always get everything in writing. As they left, Theo lingered in the doorway. Ella, please, we can fix this. No, I said softly. We can't. But you can start packing. After they left, Yasmin returned with coffee. You okay? Better than okay. I picked up my phone to text Summer. It's done. They got the notice. Her reply came quickly. How'd they take it? About as well as you'd expect, but it's done. I spent the rest of the day fielding calls from various family members, each one more outraged than the last. I let them all go to voicemail. At 5 p.m., Gary called. They tried to file an emergency injunction. Judge threw it out in 10 minutes. Your documentation was bulletproof. So it's really happening? 48 hours, not a minute more. I've arranged for a sheriff to be present if needed. I looked out my office window at the city skyline, feeling lighter than I had in months. My phone buzzed with a text from Theo. Michelle's parents have a guest house. We'll be staying there until we figure things out. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my calendar and made an appointment with a cleaning service for 3 days from now. It was time to reclaim my space. The sheriff stood beside me as I entered my condo exactly 48 hours later. The place was empty. Surprisingly, remarkably empty. Even the live, laugh, love sign was gone. Everything appears to be in order, the sheriff said, checking his paperwork. They vacated on time. I walked through each room, noting the small acts of spite they'd left behind. Tiny nail holes where Cassandra's precious decorations had hung, a coffee ring on my marble counter, the lingering smell of Michelle's perfume in the master bedroom. My phone buzzed. A text from Summer. Need company? Please, I replied. She arrived 20 minutes later with a bottle of champagne and 2 glasses. The sheriff had left, and I was sitting on my leather sectional, staring at the blank walls. They actually did it, Summer said, looking around. They actually left. With help from Michelle's parents, apparently. I accepted a glass of champagne. Theo texted to let me know they're all staying in their guest house. Of course they are. Summer sat beside me. How are you feeling? Before I could answer, my phone rang. The screen showed unknown number. Hello? You won. Michelle's voice was tight, controlled. You did what I never could. You got them out. I put the phone on speaker. Is that why you've been hanging around? Trying to get revenge by proxy? She laughed bitterly. I spent 6 years trying to please those people. 6 years of Sunday roasts and family traditions and being the perfect daughter-in-law to be. And still, it wasn't enough. Nothing ever is with them. No, she agreed. But now they're my problem again. Karma's funny that way. After she hung up, Summer raised her eyebrows. Well, that was unexpected. Everything about this is unexpected. I stood up, walking to the windows. I never thought I'd actually do it. Do what? Stand up for yourself? Be alone. Summer joined me at the window. You're not alone. You're free. There's a difference. My phone buzzed again. Theo this time. Can we talk? Please? Not yet, I typed back. The cleaning service arrived an hour later, armed with supplies to erase every trace of the past 18 months. As they worked, Summer and I sat on my balcony, watching the sunset. "I'm having an open house next week," I said, "for potential tenants." "Already?" "The lease is ready, triple-checked by Gary." I smiled. "With even more behavioral clauses." "You're really going to rent it out?" "Just the guest rooms. I'm keeping the master suite." I took another sip of champagne. It's time to make this place generate income instead of drama. My phone kept lighting up with messages. "Cassandra, you'll regret this. Family is forever." Christopher, "We can work something out." Theo, "I miss you. Michelle's guest house isn't home." I blocked each number one by one. "Look what I found," Summer called from inside. She emerged holding a small box labeled wedding photos. "Burn it," I said. "Really?" I thought about it. "No, store it. Some memories are better as lessons." The cleaning crew finished around midnight. The condo smelled of lemon and possibility. Every surface gleamed, every room emptied of their presence. "Want me to stay?" Summer offered. "No," I said, surprising myself. "I need to do this part alone." After she left, I walked through each room again. In the master bedroom, I opened every window, letting the night air sweep through. The closet still held traces of Theo's cologne, but that too would fade. My phone lit up with one final message, from Michelle. "They're already talking about moving in with me permanently. I should have known they'd never change." I typed back, "Not your circus, not your monkeys, not anymore." Then I blocked her number too. In my home office, I found my old journal, the one where I documented every slight, every insult, every manipulation. I opened to the first page, dated 18 months ago. "Today, they moved in. Cassandra rearranged my kitchen without asking. Said my organization system was too complicated. This is temporary, Ella. Stay calm." I closed the journal and placed it in my desk drawer, not as a reminder but as a warning to my future self. Never again. The city lights twinkled beyond my windows, and for the first time in 18 months, the silence felt right. No shuffling slippers, no passive-aggressive sighs, no whispered conversations about Michelle. Just peace. My phone buzzed one last time. Yasmin. "You okay?" "Better than okay," I replied. "I'm home." And I was. Finally, completely, home. The Richardson Project presentation was in full swing when my phone started buzzing. I ignored it, focusing on the sustainable housing blueprint spread across the conference table. "And here," I pointed to the central courtyard design, "we've incorporated community gardens and shared spaces." Another buzz, then another. The potential investors looked annoyed. "Excuse me," I said, stepping out to check my messages. 17 missed calls, all from Michelle's number. I clicked play on her voicemail. "Ella, I know you blocked me, but they're driving me insane. They've taken over my guest house, my life, my relationship. I understand now. I'm so sorry." Back in the conference room, I nailed the presentation. The investors loved the design, especially the community aspects. As we shook hands, my assistant appeared. "Theo's downstairs," she whispered. "Should I call security?" I glanced at my watch. "No. Send him up." He looked different. Tired, rumpled, less polished than the man who'd left my condo 3 weeks ago. "Michelle kicked us out," he said without preamble. That was fast. "Mom went too far. Started redecorating, criticizing her cooking." He ran a hand through his hair. "Sound familiar?" "Why are you here, Theo?" "I miss you. I miss our life." "Our life?" I gestured around my office. "You mean the life where your mother controlled our home? Where you secretly emailed your ex? Where I documented 53 violations just to feel sane?" "I was wrong," he said quietly. "About everything." "Yes, you were." I sat down at my desk. "But that's not why you're here. You're here because Michelle finally saw the real them, and now you have nowhere to go. His silence confirmed it. The guest rooms are rented, I said, to a lovely medical resident who works night shifts and a graduate student who's barely home. They signed the new lease yesterday. What about us? Our marriage? I opened my drawer and pulled out an envelope. Divorce papers. My lawyer drew them up last week. Ella, please. I kept a journal, I interrupted. Every day for 18 months I wrote down how small they made me feel, how you let them do it. Do you want to know what the last entry says? He shook his head, but I continued. It says, they thought I was just the girl who poured tea and kept quiet. Turns out I also wrote the lease agreements and the exit strategy. My phone buzzed again. Michelle, they're looking for another place. Please, any advice? I showed Theo the message. Funny how history repeats itself. Mom's talking about moving to Florida, he said weakly. Good for her. The sunshine might improve her disposition. Security appeared in my doorway. I texted them while he was talking. Mr. Holmes, we'll escort you out. That evening, I hosted a housewarming dinner for my new tenants. Sarah, the medical resident, brought wine. James, the grad student, made pasta. We sat at my dining table, the same one where I'd served that last pot roast, and talked about normal things. Work, studies, life. My phone lit up with a text from Summer. Heard about Michelle's guest house drama. You okay? Perfect, I replied. Having dinner with my new housemates, normal drama-free people who signed a 15-page lease agreement. Later, as I got ready for bed, I noticed something in my closet. Theo's old Harvard sweatshirt. I'd worn it every Sunday morning while making coffee, back when I thought love meant enduring anything. I packed it in a donation box along with the wedding album Summer had found. My phone buzzed one last time. Cassandra. We're moving to Florida. I hope you're happy with what you've done to this family. I typed back. I am. Enjoy the sunshine. Then I walked out to my balcony, where the city sparkled like it was celebrating with me. My phone rang. Yasmin. Hey, she said. Heard Theo showed up today. Yeah. Apparently Michelle finally got a taste of the real Cassandra experience. And nothing. The lease is signed, the divorce papers are filed, and my in-laws are Florida-bound. I smiled into the night air. I'm free. You always were, Yasmin said. You just needed to realize it. Inside, I heard Sarah and James laughing over dessert. Normal sounds. Happy sounds. No manipulation, no drama, no passive-aggressive pot roasts. I thought about that first night after they'd moved in, when Cassandra had rearranged my kitchen. If I'd known then what I know now, I would have handed her the lease agreement right there. But sometimes the longest routes teach us the most important lessons. That family isn't about endurance, love isn't about surrender, and peace isn't found in silence. It's found in finally speaking up. I went back inside to join my new housemates, leaving the past where it belonged. Behind me, filed away with all the proper documentation.